Please wait. Don't abandon me here, I pleaded, the desperation in my voice echoing through the desolate mountainside. My husband's response was chillingly indifferent. Return when your leg has mended, he retorted coolly before turning his back on me, leaving me stranded amidst the rugged wilderness. Frantically, I cried out once more, a futile attempt to halt his departure, but his smirk and fleeting glance were all the acknowledgement I received before he vanished into the distance. Left alone, panic enveloped me as I realized the extent of my predicament. With no means of communication and my legs immobilized by plaster casts, I was utterly helpless. Reaching out futilely towards his retreating form, I watched in dismay as he disappeared from sight. The reality sank in. My husband had callously deserted me in this unforgiving terrain. Helplessly sprawled on the ground, I could only watch as he drove away, leaving me to confront my fears alone. My name is Jennifer, a 35-year-old office worker. In my small family unit resides my husband, Robert, a man 3 years my senior, who also toils away in an office setting. Our marriage has reached its 3rd year, yet the pitter-patter of little feet has yet to grace our home. In the realm of domestic duties, Robert adheres strictly to traditional gender roles, leaving the lion's share of household chores squarely on my shoulders. Not only does he shirk any involvement in domestic tasks, but he also exhibits a penchant for demanding my assistance with mundane requests, such as fetching the remote or preparing his tea, even when said items lie within arm's reach. In my initial attempts to rectify this imbalance, I reminded him of my own workload and implored him to lend a hand. His response, steeped in patriarchal entitlement, echoed through our home. "Eyeing the primary breadwinner, it is your duty to attend to such matters." Repeated entreaties for his cooperation were met with disdain, as Robert dismissed my appeals as mere nagging, punctuating his disapproval with ostentatious displays of frustration. Gradually, our interactions soured, his once warm morning greetings replaced by stony silence. Faced with his unyielding stance, I reluctantly assumed sole responsibility for our household chores, resigned to the reality of our domestic dynamic. I must confess, there are moments when the weight of exhaustion from work bears down heavily on me, and I find myself yearning for his assistance. Yet I've learned to endure it in silence, deeming it preferable to the alternative of facing his complaints or enduring his indifference. One fateful day, as I made my way to work, fate intervened in the form of a child teetering perilously close to the edge of a staircase at the train station. Without hesitation, I propelled myself forward, a warning cry escaping my lips as I intercepted the child, shielding him from a potentially calamitous fall. However, in my valiant effort, I too became ensnared in the precarious descent, my body twisting and contorting as gravity pulled us both downward. Amidst the chaotic whirlwind of motion, a sickening snap reverberated through the air, accompanied by searing agony that eclipsed any pain I had ever known. When the dizzying tumult finally subsided, I found myself cradling the stunned child in my arms, relief flooding through me as I assessed his unharmed form. Yet my own attempts to rise were thwarted by the excruciating protests of my limbs. Summoning the aid of station personnel, I implored them to summon an ambulance as I grappled with the throbbing anguish radiating from my broken leg. Transported to the hospital, I reached out to Robert, recounting the harrowing ordeal and beseeching him to join me. "Forgive the inconvenience. It seems I've managed to get myself into quite the predicament," I murmured apologetically over the phone. "Don't concern yourself with apologies. Let's focus on getting you home safely," came Robert's earnest response, his genuine worry providing a flicker of comfort amidst the chaos. "What a thoughtful husband you have," remarked the nurse, her words dripping with admiration as she glanced at Robert. With a smug grin, he replied, "Oh, I always lend a hand around the house," a boastful claim that left me incredulous. Suppressing my astonishment, I opted for silence, unwilling to create a scene in the hospital room. However, upon our return home, Robert's demeanor underwent a drastic transformation. "Hey, I'm famished. Fetch me something to eat, and don't forget to iron this shirt," he barked, assigning me household chores without a hint of consideration. Confined to a wheelchair, I bristled at his demands, unable to comply with his requests. "What can't you see my predicament?" I protested, frustration lacing my words. "You promised to take care of things while I was hospitalized." Taken aback by my reproach, Robert's retort was swift and cutting. "I only said that because you were in the hospital," he snapped, his tone laced with derision. "Just get it done. And let's be realistic here, you couldn't have possibly saved that kid. You're too clumsy, too slow." It became increasingly apparent that Robert harbored doubts about the veracity of my words. How can you say something so cruel? I countered, my voice tinged with hurt and disbelief. Unmoved, Robert's concern veered swiftly towards financial matters. Does it really matter? He retorted callously. Are you taking time off work? What about your salary? His words cut deep, emphasizing his prioritization of money over my well-being. Though I knew I would receive some form of compensation from my job during my absence, it would pale in comparison to my regular earnings. You can't contribute to household chores or bring in a salary. You're utterly useless. His criticism stung, leaving me speechless and reeling from the unexpected onslaught. As I struggled to process his harsh words, Robert sank into the sofa with a disgruntled sigh, his discontent palpable. Why did I ever marry you? He muttered bitterly, his tone dripping with disdain. Bewildered by his hostility, I sought to defend myself. I didn't choose to be in this condition, I protested weakly. Enough with your excuses. Robert's retort was sharp and unforgiving. If you have the energy to complain, then start pulling your weight around here. Surely you're capable of that much. His words struck a raw nerve, plunging me into a suffocating sense of despair. Unable to bear his callousness any longer, I found myself blurting out, "That's it. If this is how it's going to be, I'm going back to my parents' house." Robert appeared more than willing to accommodate my decision. "All right then, I'll take you there," he chirped, reaching for the car keys. With minimal preparation, I gathered only the essentials into a bag, relying on my crutches to navigate. However, Robert's assistance was conspicuously absent as I struggled to make my way to the car. "Come on, what's taking so long? Hurry up and get in," he grumbled impatiently, tossing my bag into the car with careless disregard. Irritation oozed from every pore as he settled into the driver's seat, clearly perturbed by the inconvenience. The journey to my parents' home, nestled amidst the mountains, stretched before us, a daunting 2-hour drive. Despite my misgivings about Robert's sudden willingness to accompany me, I had little choice but to rely on his assistance for the time being. As the city lights faded into the rearview mirror, Robert's sour disposition remained unchanged, his irritation palpable with every click of the tongue at each red light we encountered. Lost in contemplation, I resigned myself to pondering my options once I reached the safety of my parents' embrace. However, my reverie was shattered when the car abruptly halted. "What's happening? Did we run out of gas?" I queried, turning to Robert in confusion, only to be met with a venomous command. "Get out of the car here." Perplexed, I protested. "Here? Why? I can't be left stranded in the middle of nowhere." "Shut up. Don't come back until you're able to walk again." His words cut through the air like a whip, leaving me speechless and abandoned in the desolate expanse of the mountain road. Never in my wildest dreams had I envisioned such a nightmare scenario. Despite my frantic attempts to cling to the seatbelt and door, Robert callously ejected me from the car with a forceful shove. My pleas fell on deaf ears as he callously smirked, re-entered the vehicle, and sped off, leaving me stranded on the roadside. Paralyzed by shock and disbelief, I could do naught but cry out in desperation as Robert's car vanished into the distance, taking with it my belongings and any means of communication. Night was fast approaching, casting an ominous shadow over the desolate surroundings. With each passing moment, my sense of helplessness deepened, uncertainty gnawing at my core. Although I had informed my parents of my impending return, the prospect of their rescue felt increasingly remote. Left to my own devices, I resolved to crawl towards civilization, each agonizing inch a testament to my determination to survive. Yet, as exhaustion threatened to engulf me, a glimmer of hope emerged in the form of approaching footsteps. A figure clad in jogging attire materialized before me, a beacon of salvation amidst the encroaching darkness. My desperate cries for help caught the attention of the approaching woman, who quickened her pace and hurried over to my side. "What happened? Why are you alone here, and what's with the state of your clothes?" she inquired, her concern evident as she took in the sight of my disheveled appearance and the dirt streak cast encasing my leg. Tears welled in my eyes as I recounted the events that had led to my predicament. Moved by my plight, the woman, whose name I would later learn was Patricia, wasted no time in offering assistance. "My home is nearby. I'll fetch my car. Just wait here," she reassured me, draping her windbreaker over my shoulders before hastening off. Gratitude overwhelmed me as I huddled beneath the shelter of her jacket, fervently praying for her swift return. True to her word, Patricia was soon back, her car idling nearby as she extended a helping hand. "Let's get you to the hospital first, then we can figure out where you live," she suggested, her kindness a balm to my wounded spirit. Moved by her selflessness, I suggested we make a detour to my parents' home, fearing their worry for my well-being. Patricia readily agreed, her empathy a soothing presence as we embarked on the journey together. With each passing moment, our conversation deepened, bonding over shared indignation towards the cruelty I had endured at the hands of my husband, Robert. Before I knew it, we had arrived at my parents' doorstep, Patricia's comforting presence a beacon of hope amidst the turmoil. "Thank you so much for your kindness. Please come inside. Let me properly express my gratitude," I urged Patricia, extending an invitation into my home. Initially, she demurred, citing work commitments for the following day. However, recognizing my inability to navigate on my own, she graciously assisted me to the entrance. As we reached the threshold, my mother emerged, her expression a mix of concern and relief. Profusely thanking Patricia, she eventually persuaded her to step inside. Once within, my parents and I showered Patricia with gratitude, overwhelmed by her selfless act of compassion. Seated amidst the warmth of my family's embrace, I recounted the events that had led me back to their doorstep and Patricia's invaluable assistance. "What a despicable man. You should divorce him immediately," my father fumed, his anger palpable. "You need to rest," my mother interjected, her worry etched across her features. But I had a task at hand. "I need to call Robert," I declared, determination driving my actions. With my parents by my side, I reached for the home phone, steeling myself for the conversation that lay ahead. "You're home already. Come back as soon as you're healed. Who will take care of the house without you?" Robert's tone held no trace of remorse as his callous words echoed through the speakerphone, audible to both me and my enraged parents. Enraged by Robert's callous disregard, my father's voice thundered through the phone, seething with fury. "What nonsense is he spouting? He's got some nerve," he bellowed, his anger palpable even from a distance. Beside him, my mother's expression hardened, her disapproval evident. Despite the heated confrontation, Robert remained obstinate, his demands for my return to household duties unabated. The finality in my decision reverberated through the line as I declared, "It's over. Let's get a divorce." A heavy silence followed, punctuated only by Robert's resigned sigh. "Why does it have to come to this?" he lamented, shifting the blame onto me with practiced ease. Exhausted by the emotional turmoil, I terminated the call with a weary sigh, the weight of my decision hanging heavily in the air. In the aftermath, it took considerable effort to soothe my parents' frayed nerves, their anger simmering beneath the surface. The following day, the incessant ringing of the house phone filled the air, a silent testament to the unresolved turmoil brewing between Robert and me. Though the caller remained unknown, I couldn't shake the feeling that it was Robert unwilling to accept the finality of our decision. The incessant ringing of the phone persisted, each call a jarring intrusion into my solitude. Despite my initial reluctance, a nagging suspicion crept in. Perhaps it wasn't Robert after all, given the timing during his work hours. Yielding to curiosity, I answered, only to be met with Robert's frantic voice on the other end. "Finally, why were you ignoring my calls? I need your help. I'm on the verge of being fired." Robert's words spilled out in a desperate torrent, his distress palpable even through the receiver. His plea fell on deaf ears as I coolly retorted, "And what exactly do you expect me to do about it? Your job is your responsibility, not mine," before disconnecting the call with a decisive click. "If he's facing the consequences of his actions, it's well deserved," I mused bitterly, refusing to entertain any further involvement in Robert's affairs. However, a startling revelation soon emerged. Patricia, the woman who had come to my aid, was Robert's mistress. As she listened to my tale during our encounter, a sense of familiarity began to dawn upon her. Her suspicions were confirmed when she overheard Robert's voice during my divorce call. Upon seeing his picture, her world shattered, her anguish mirroring my own shock and betrayal. Blindsided by Robert's infidelity, I seethed with resentment at being deceived and neglected. Yet, it was Patricia's fury that truly ignited a storm within me, her righteous anger far surpassing my own expectations. Together, we navigated the turbulent waters of betrayal, united in our shared sense of betrayal and indignation. As Patricia recounted, she first crossed paths with Robert in her workplace, a subsidiary of his company. Their initial interaction occurred during one of Robert's business visits, sparking the connection that quickly evolved into frequent rendezvous. Robert, keen to escalate their relationship beyond professional boundaries, disclosed his purported divorce history, a narrative reinforced by rumors circulating among their colleagues. Enticed by his seemingly genuine demeanor, Patricia succumbed to Robert's overtures, nurturing dreams of a future together based on his promises of marriage. Little did she know, behind his facade of sincerity lurked a deceitful man who not only concealed his marital status but callously abandoned his injured wife in the wilderness. Consumed by a potent blend of regret and fury at being duped by such a man, Patricia's visage twisted into a chillingly sinister smile. Determined to exact revenge for her betrayal, she orchestrated Robert's downfall, leveraging her connections to ensure his dismissal from his position. Following my decisive dismissal of Robert's pleas, Patricia reached out to relay the consequences of his actions. He's facing the repercussions now. My uncle, infuriated by his behavior, has terminated his employment, she revealed, her voice tinged with satisfaction at the fulfillment of her vengeance. The uncle Patricia referred to happened to be the president of Robert's company. As it turned out, Patricia and the president shared a familial bond. She was his niece. Patricia, grappling with health issues that restricted her ability to work extended hours, secured a part-time position at her uncle's subsidiary, conveniently located near her residence. During our conversation, Patricia revealed that she had been jogging in the mountains that day, a cost-effective alternative to gym memberships aimed at bolstering her physical strength. Interestingly, the CEO, who lacked children of his own, showered Patricia with affection and support, given their familial ties. However, Patricia had deliberately concealed this relationship from Robert, fearing potential complications due to their distinct surnames and disparate workplaces. "It's best to stay cautious," Patricia cautioned, her tone tinged with concern. My uncle mentioned Robert making inappropriate remarks. "I wouldn't be surprised if he attempts to visit you again." As Patricia had ominously predicted, Robert materialized at my parents' doorstep that very night, his persistent knocks echoing loudly through the stillness of the evening. His voice, strained with anger, reverberated through the door as he unleashed a barrage of accusations. "You're responsible for getting me fired. You need to come with me and explain everything to the boss and apologize." Robert's tirade was fueled by his belief that my alleged collusion with Patricia had led to his termination. In his skewed version of events, I had embellished details of his affair to Patricia, thereby triggering a misunderstanding with the boss. As the gravity of the situation dawned on me, I realized the true meaning behind Patricia's cryptic warning of Robert's inappropriate behavior. However, before I could formulate a response, my father, unaware of the brewing storm, had already swung open the front door, unwittingly inviting Robert's wrath into our home. "Enough with your excuses. How dare you demand an apology from my daughter after betraying her trust? You got what was coming to you. Now, get out." My father's voice thundered with righteous indignation as he forcefully ejected Robert from our doorstep, slamming the door shut and locking it behind him. Yet the commotion outside persisted, Robert's pleas for forgiveness echoing through the walls. Taking a deep breath, I addressed Robert through the intercom, determined to set the record straight. "Let me make something abundantly clear since you still seem oblivious. You believe you were fired for merely laying hands on the boss's niece. You're sorely mistaken." The boss thoroughly explained the situation from start to finish. From the CEO's standpoint, this wasn't just a run-of-the-mill affair. It was viewed as a parent company exploiting a subsidiary employee into an extramarital relationship. Your status as a part-time employee placed you in a vulnerable position, and your actions were deemed unacceptable. I continued, my tone unwavering. The CEO admonished you countless times, yet you remained fixated on the affair. Understand this, it wasn't merely about whom you were involved with this time. It was about the gross misconduct of a parent company exploiting its subsidiary. Regardless of the other party's identity, such behavior would warrant dismissal. If you can't grasp how ludicrous your claims are, you're deluding yourself. If you don't want to add arrests to your list of woes, leave now. And as for the divorce, be prepared to face legal consequences. I declared firmly, cutting through Robert's protests with unwavering resolve. Only then did a stunned silence descend upon the scene. With Robert's departure, tranquility settled once more over my parents' home. In the aftermath, I wasted no time in seeking legal recourse. Consulting with Patricia, we devised a plan to hold Robert accountable for his actions. I initiated divorce proceedings, determined to sever all ties with him. Additionally, Patricia and I jointly pursued legal action against Robert, seeking damages for the pain and suffering inflicted upon us. I sued Robert for the emotional anguish of betrayal and deception, while Patricia sought recompense for the emotional toll of being missold into a relationship under false pretenses. Together, we resolved to ensure that Robert faced the full consequences of his deceitful actions. After Robert's dismissal, he found himself in dire financial straits without any severance pay to fall back on. Desperate for assistance, he turned to his parents for help. However, his plea for financial aid fell on deaf ears when they learned of my decision to divorce him. Incensed by his actions, they refused to offer any support. Left with no other options, Robert's parents reluctantly arranged for him to secure employment at a company they were acquainted with. In this new role, Robert found himself at the lowest rung of the corporate ladder, stripped of the perceived superiority he once held as a member of a parent company or subsidiary. His presence was a constant reminder of his transgressions, and he was subjected to menial tasks and disdainful glances on a daily basis. Despite Robert's humiliating circumstances, neither Patricia nor I harbored any sympathy for him. Our sole concern was ensuring that he met his financial obligations, particularly in terms of alimony. We remained indifferent to his treatment and the source of his income, focused solely on securing the compensation we rightfully deserved. With time, my fractured relationship with Robert healed, and I found solace in the company of Patricia's friends. Together, we pursued legal action, resulting in a favorable outcome that provided us with a substantial sum in damages. Buoyed by this success, we began making plans for a well-deserved trip, eager to leave the past behind us and embrace a brighter future.